And I figure while I'm doing this full day of eating video, I might as well tell you about my thoughts on Nick Walker dropping out of the Mr. Olympia contest so late, because that's this weekend. I'm gonna go to the car and I'm gonna get my meal 4 that I packed, and I'll show you what it is and we'll sit and talk. So, today is Friday, August 11th, I believe, and Mr. Olympia is this weekend in Las Vegas, and just a few days back, Nick Walker announced that he was dropping out of the competition. I have some thoughts on this, both as a fan of bodybuilding, somebody that's not particularly fond of Nick Walker, and then from like a business and contract perspective. I'm not the biggest fan of Nick Walker. I don't think he has the prettiest looking physique. Like, I'm not drawn to it. I'm not saying it's bad. Obviously it's very, very good. It's very muscular, it's very symmetrical. He can pose it really well. It's just not my cup of tea, right? I think it's very angular, very blocky, and I don't really like how a lot of his things tie in together. So that being said, I don't really care if I see him on stage or not. Him in and of himself. Now, as a fan of bodybuilding, I love bodybuilding. I don't have much interest in watching some of the smaller pro shows where it's like one really, really, really excellent top 5 Olympian pro against a bunch of no-name people. You know, the call-outs are boring. There's no competition. I mean, they walk out on stage in their first group and you already know the placings. So from that perspective, I want Nick Walker on that stage because he is good. He will add more competition. He'll add more call-outs, more looks, interesting placings. And he'll make people like Samson, Hottie, Derek, Andrew Jacked, Hunter, you know, etc. He's gonna make them work harder just because he's there and they know he's good. So from that perspective, I'm very disappointed that he dropped out. From a business perspective, my mind is blown. These competitors sign contracts to do the Mr. Olympia in October, November, or December back in May, June, or July. There is an easy 3-4 month lead up to this contest. Unless, of course, you qualify for the Mr. Olympia really late, in which case your contract is different. But for these top level elite people, they have a large runway to know that they're doing this show. What that means is that people are buying tickets to go see Nick. The promoters are using Nick's image in all of the posters, the graphic design art, the teaser trailer videos, because they know that people want to see Nick. They're making money off Nick. Now, I think once you sign that contract, there needs to be a more specific reason for dropping out. For example, let's say you come down with COVID. Let's say you come down with the flu. Let's say you come down with a disease. 1, you're contagious. 2, you can't prep when you're sick like that, you know? Let's say you get some type of like appendicitis and you got to go to the hospital and have your appendix taken out. Like, these are reasons to not compete. I don't think Nick Walker's reason of, I don't feel like it, I don't look as good as I could look, is a valid excuse to not compete at this competition, especially less than a week before everybody's supposed to step on stage. A previous Mr. Olympia, Brandon Curry, was hospitalized the night before or 2 nights before the Mr. Olympia contest last year. He didn't eat or drink for a long time. He was very sick, throwing up, was admitted to the hospital. They kept him overnight. That dude still left the hospital and went and competed at the Mr. Olympia. He knew he wasn't going to win. He knew he didn't look as good as he could look. He didn't care. He wanted to compete because he signed a contract, he had fans, and he wanted to honor his commitment and have the experience. Nick Walker should have done the same. Now, if Nick knew, Nick and his coach would have known 4, 5, 6 weeks ago that his body wasn't responding and he wasn't going to look his best. They should have made this decision a month ago. I think that's an easier pill to swallow. The whole a week out or less than a week out is just inexcusable. It's a dickbag move, you know? If Nick doesn't want to compete, he doesn't have to compete, but I think there needs to be a clause in these contracts that once you pass a certain date, you're locked in, with the exception of some of those emergency outlying reasons that I talked about before. I don't know if there's a fine involved, if there's a suspension, you're not allowed to compete in a competition for X number of months after the Mr. Olympia, something. But I think what Nick Walker is doing here is inexcusable. Your job is to compete as a professional bodybuilder. So do it, you know? A lot of us would kill to have the genetics that could handle the drugs to go that far. Some of us would kill to be in the position of, I'm just gonna sit at home and post stuff on Instagram and talk to my friends on Zoom and call it a podcast and make $500,000 a year to go lift weights. But most of us have to pack our chicken and eat while we're doing chores, eat while we're at the office, eat on a break, on a work shift. We would kill for that life. And if I had that life, I would never back out of a commitment. I would be the luckiest son of a gun in the world. And Nick Walker, I don't like what he did. I don't think he handles himself well. I don't think he handles a lot of his professional relationships well. I don't know. And lastly, I thought the video where they announced this was really suspect. Nick is his own person, right? So why is his coach doing the announcing and the explaining? Why can't Nick speak for himself? You know, if I was sick and I couldn't go into work, I'm not going to have my wife call my boss and explain that I'm not feeling well and that I won't be in. That's on me, man. Nick should have spoken for himself. Anyway, the thing is weird, but ultimately I wish Nick was at the Mr. Olympia because I know he'll make the competition more exciting. He'll make it harder on the other competitors. And really, we all want a good competition, so.